The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Saving and investing can be confusing and overwhelming. We're here to break through the noise, misinformation, and confusion with easy-to-understand concepts and tools that you can put into practice right away. Whether you're a novice investor or an old pro, join Jason as he explores different topics on investing and personal finance. From 401ks to better budgeting decisions, we'll cover it all. Our investment guidance will give you the comfort and security of knowing that you're on track to achieve your goals. It's time to rise above all of the distractions of daily life and take control of your financial future. Welcome to Financially Fit with your host, Jason Haviland.
Hello, and welcome to Financially Fit. I'm your host, Jason Haviland. Thanks for being here today. Today I'm joined by Kristin Mendoza from Milliard Tech Law. And we're going to get into some legal topics today. We did some college financial planning in our last episode. So today we're going to pivot a little bit, talk about some legal issues for small businesses, for startups, and we're going to try to save them some money. And we're going to try to make sure they don't get into trouble and they don't make some mistakes. So first, Kristin, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been practicing law?
Sure. So I am a business law, corporate law attorney. I've been practicing for about 16 years now, 7 with a large law firm in Boston, another 7 at one of the large law firms in Manchester, and about 2 years ago I struck out on my own and started Milliard Tech Law, which is a boutique business law practice that serves small business clients, entrepreneurs.
Okay, so you're on your own now. You're independent. We like that. So what serving the business community? So what kinds of things come up for small business? What kind of matters do you handle?
Sure. I handle just about anything that a business is going to see from a legal perspective just about throughout the life cycle. I help people form business entities, draft and negotiate contracts, advise on hiring and terminating employees, assist with angel and VC investment, securing commercial loans, leasing commercial property, and buying and selling their business.
Okay, so for business owners, people starting a business, how about people that are thinking about starting a business? Is that
absolutely
sort of appropriate for them to
pre-incorporation, planning, absolutely.
Okay, so if you're in that stage, you're probably thinking about sort of what kind of business should somebody have, right? What do if you're thinking about starting a business, should they start an LLC? Should they start a C-corporation, a sort of normal corporation? Should they stay a sole proprietor? I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of business structures that companies can have. What do you recommend?
So, yes, I mean, the most common question with someone starting a business is, if the business fails, am I going to lose my house? It's a huge concern.
It's a big deal,
It's absolutely a valid question. And so what I often tell people at the beginning is that your first line of defense, if you will, should be to talk to a insurance agent, see if there's some type of insurance that will cover the business that you plan to operate.
And that probably will vary quite widely based on the kind of business somebody's going to be engaging in, right? Everything from small business restaurant to some new product or some environmental thing, that can be a pretty big.
Absolutely. So go to an expert and see what insurance products are out there to help mitigate some of those business risks that may be incurred along the way. The second is have good contracts with your customers or whomever you're contracting with. Set clear expectations so you try to avoid some of those risks down the road as well. But apart from kind of that, the next consideration is often, should I be a sole proprietor or form an LLC or a corporation? Yeah. And the answer to that is, it depends.
Right. We say that a lot in finance. Right. Should I invest in this, Jason, or should I put my money here? Well, it depends, right? Complicated. So what are some of those dimensions that they should at least be thinking about to help them, maybe guide them either as they're talking with a lawyer or, in that during or part of that process?
Sure. So what I look at and what I ask my clients to look at is, evaluate the potential risks along the way.
Yeah.
If you are, if your business model is, I'm a consulting business, I work out of my house, I don't plan to have employees, I have a handful of clients, you can say, that the risks there are pretty low, and that, insurance and good contracts with your customers could do well
Cover
for you.
most of the situations that are
Right,
likely to
and you,
come
and
up.
you can kind of stop at that point and
Okay.
feel pretty
Pretty good
secure.
about that,
Yeah. But if you are planning to hire employees, if
Right.
you are
Grow, you want to be a big business, right?
Right.
Take over a big office space downtown.
Absolutely,
Right.
all of those things. You are writing software, creating intellectual property, or making large volumes of product, selling it to
Consumer
people.
product, right?
Consumer
products always
any
seem
type
fraught
of
with
manufacturing.
some danger, yeah.
Anything like that, you really want to consider an LLC or a corporation as your business structure.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that, as a sole proprietor, you own the business, you own the assets of that business personally, and you also are responsible for the liabilities,
Right.
what's owed to other people personally.
Personally.
And when that risk is small and manageable, then you can be comfortable with that.
Right.
When you start looking at all those other factors, employees, intellectual property, product liability, slip and fall risks if you're opening a storefront or a restaurant, then it's very easy for those liabilities to exceed what your business assets are.
Okay.
When you
And then your house is at risk, or
right,
other
if
things
you
like
if you
that.
if your business is a personal asset, then all of your other personal assets, like your house and your savings account and your car, those can all be used to satisfy that business liability that you are personally responsible for.
Okay.
An LLC or a corporation is a separate legal person. It's the LLC that owns the assets,
Right.
or the corporation that owns the liabilities. And so once its assets have been depleted, that's the end of the business. But as a business owner, if your concern is, will I lose the house? The answer is no. If the business is operated through an LLC, and barring any bad acts or fraud,
Right.
once the business is bankrupt, that's where the
And
liability
you have the
ends.
personal protection
Right.
in that regard. Okay.
So that's how the analysis goes, and it's good to talk with somebody before you make that decision.
And then the C-Corp aspect of that, is there any sort of rule of thumb for when that structure might be most appropriate?
I always defer to the accountants on this, and the financial advisors on this.
Yes, there are some
So,
financial reasons for doing one versus the other.
Mostly it's a tax.
Yep.
Yeah, it's mostly a tax-driven issue. So, for a C corporation, the corporation is going to pay taxes on its own, and then if it distributes any profits to its owners, then they pay taxes on the profits. So
Right.
you have this double taxation scenario occurring. If you're an S corporation or an LLC, that those entities are not taxed at the entity level. We have a situation that's referred to as flow-through taxation, where the owners pass through, and the owners of the business recognize profits and losses on their personal income tax return and pay tax accordingly based upon their individual rates. Okay. So there's some tax savings there, as long as you fit the parameters of an S corporation, and that can be helpful to businesses in the very early stages.
Okay. I know the other thing I see are for startups that are trying to raise equity, a lot of angel investors and VC investors prefer C corporations over LLCs in some cases, just from sort of investability perspective. So I guess those are some really nice perspectives. Good way to say there's a lot going on in those spaces. So go have a conversation about your specific situation, and I'm sure you can come to a reasonable and good base on what's best for you.
Right, and the good news there is that you can, if you're testing the waters and you want to see if your product is viable and you want to do some early stage things before you form the business, that's fine. Just understand what your risk is.
Right.
And if you start as an LLC, but then you decide you need to get angel investment or VC investment, there's ability to convert the business into one of those structures. So you're not locked in at the beginning stages, but you do want to try to understand what the roadmap could be for
Right.
your business, so that you're making kind of the right decisions at the right time.
Great. All right, now this show is Financially Fit with Jason Haviland, right? So we talk about trying to save money, trying to spend the money that you have wisely, how to invest the money that you have wisely. A lot of people sort of hear lawyers and sort of going to talk to a lawyer and sort of figure out, and the little starts spinning. This is going to cost me a whole lot of money. So talk to us a little bit about how you work with your clients, your customers, how you can save them money. You can talk a little bit about maybe both the indirect ways, right? I can help you save money by helping you avoid these costs in the future, and maybe even direct. You're I think more independent, sort of more willing to sort of work with small business. Tell us a little bit about sort of how you can help companies save money.
Okay. So a lot of the ways that attorneys can help is really just sharing the experience and what we've seen happen. Share the war stories about, well, what happens if you don't, have a partnership agreement or any type of written agreement with your partners, your business partners, and you decide you don't want to be in business anymore.
Right.
Those sorts of issues that have to be dealt with in real time when people's energies are and passions are inflamed tend to cost more than when you do pre-planning. So trying to get good advice at the early stages before you're deeply entrenched in a very stressful negotiation or business
about it, right?
issue.
That's
Yeah,
where the cost can really rack
that's
up, right?
really where the cost racks up. So I know it's against most people's sense of how to work with an attorney, but really it's cheaper to get the advice up front than to pay an attorney to deal with the mess after the fact.
Right.
So that's kind of the blanket advice.
Okay.
For me, I love working with small businesses and I love working with
Yes,
entrepreneurs.
too.
So
This is our sweet spot.
right, I try to
Entrepreneurs and
be
startups.
as generous with my time as I can in giving counseling like that. I actually left Big Law New Hampshire's version of Big Law because I wanted to focus very thoughtfully on small business and to meet their needs
Right.
within their budgetary constraints.
Yes,
so
that's
for
good.
so for me, I will bill clients flat fee. I'll set the rate in advance so they know what they're paying for.
Like an hourly flat fee, or just like the whole fee for like this
No,
whole process that I'm going to sort of take. I'm going to take you from this point to this point for this fee. You don't have to worry every time you call me that the meter's running.
That's right. So that's exactly how I do it, which is it's different from how most lawyers operate and bill clients. But for me, if you need a contract, if you need a confidentiality agreement because you're talking with a potential strategic partner, and you want that form, call me up. I'll give me the information, and I'll tell you right then and there how much it's going to cost for me to work on that with you.
Okay.
And all the way through, and you can ask as many questions as you want, and there's no additional costs or hidden fees.
Okay.
That's different than, like I said,
you can't get that at on sort of Main Street, Manchester, Nashua.
It's not
In Boston, right? Like those
popular. It's not a widespread way of advising and billing clients. That doesn't mean that everyone else is doing it, better or right, or that's more correct. But it's just the practice has been for attorneys to bill by the hour, and so they will generally charge. In New Hampshire, the rates can be in Manchester between $250 and $450 an hour. As you go, down here in Nashville or out to the seacoast, those numbers can come down a little bit. But you're looking at about $250 an hour for most attorneys. And so when you talk to them, you want to use that time wisely, and you want to, as I said, get the good advice up front, so that they set you down the right path and you avoid disputes where, again, that meter's running.
Right. All right, so that's good context for sort of how to how you can sort of help them save some money in context of the sort of the bigger players. Now, a lot of us have sort of gone online. We've looked at some of the, how can we save even more money, right? A lot of small business owners, a lot of startups are always looking for that ultimate angle, right? So give us some of your thoughts on companies like LegalZoom, right? Where you can sort of just go online. There's some templates. I suspect, I haven't actually used it, but some templates. You can sort of put some information in, get information back. There's other websites where you can sort of put your legal problems in and get like really ridiculously low-priced legal advice back that seems to be sort of outsourced, maybe even in different countries. So, like, there's a lot of ways the internet is sort of advertising, sort of bringing low-cost access to some of these services. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, I have to say at the outset, I get it. I get the attraction of LegalZoom and the other services that are out there, and I tell people all the time, if you want to use LegalZoom as a starting point to get an idea of what you might like for your contract, then go for it. But that is not generally the advice that most lawyers give. And I do always say, I always give that advice with the caveat that don't stop at LegalZoom. Certainly if you want to use that as a starting point, but then I would strongly recommend that you go, you take that document to a business attorney and say, does this really fit for what I want to do? Or I like this provision, but I don't understand what this other section says. Do I need that? And get the advice to really build it and hone it to what you want it to be. Because LegalZoom is not giving you legal advice; they are providing you with a document. And
I feel like that's one of their little caveats, sort of somewhere around the site, is that they're just they're providing access to legal information or something like that, not.
Right. So just
advice.
because they have that form available to you doesn't mean it's the right form for you to use.
Right.
And unless you are a person who professionally is very experienced with drafting and negotiating contracts, it's very hard for most small business owners to understand really what those contracts say and what they're supposed to mean. Because they're not really written for most people, for general reading. They're written very technically. So, I tell people if you want to take your first pass at drafting your own contract, and you find that to be a useful resource, and then you want me to fill in and fix and hone, that's fine. Other attorneys will just say, no, don't use that, and you have to use my form.
Right.
That's something that you work out with your legal advisor, but. I think LegalZoom is here to stay, and those service providers are here to stay. So, I try to embrace it and use it as a resource, but not the entire solution.
Not the be-all, end-all.
Yeah.
So I suspect you're going to, given that's your sort of position on LegalZoom, I suspect you're going to say the same thing about people. So that the zero-cost solution is I just go out on the internet and I type in blank 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 contract, right? And I might be able to find something on the internet, and I sort of look. I know I was personally tempted by this, right? Oh, it looks like this is going to apply to my business, and I just sort of look at it. Oh, I'll just sort of change my name, or I need I need something that perhaps I feel is pretty standard, like a non-disclosure agreement, right? I should be able to just go onto the internet and type non-disclosure agreement, change my name, and I should be good. Probably going to tell us that's not such a good idea either. Based on your last answer, that's what I sort of suspect is coming.
Well, you said it yourself. You should be good, right? You don't know if you're good, and that's really what the tension and the problem is with relying on those resources. Is that if you are not versed in drafting and negotiating contracts, you don't know, and then what is the value of you having that peace of mind, and is it worth paying someone like me $200 to help you draft the contract and get the peace of mind that what you're using is reasonable and accomplishes your purposes and protects you, or not.
Right.
You have it for free, and maybe it'll be a problem down the road, and maybe it won't be, and you just kind of live with that uncertainty. So
what if it's okay? Like, would you look at it and say, actually, you did good. You found a good one, and based on what you've told me about your business, this will work for you.
Absolutely.
That works.
I do that.
You don't say no. You got to take the one that we know, we've written, and this is our version of whatever it is you're asking for.
No, I
You'll
don't.
evaluate it on its face, whatever they found or used or started somewhere and sort of gotten to you however they've gotten to you.
Yeah, I mean, my approach is, if you get there and you understand your contract and you are comfortable with it, then I am not going to force a different format on you with different language, because at the end of the day, I'm not writing the contract for me. I'm writing it for you and for your clients, so that you understand your business relationship. Right. So if you can accomplish that with something that you've drafted, and I can look at it and say that it does what it's supposed to do in terms of setting out expectations and minimizing risk, then
contract or a
good job.
Yes. You found it and you saved some money.
That's right.
That's good. All right, so many people are surprised to learn that people who give financial advice do not have to have what we say our fiduciary best interest of our clients in mind. Some financial advisors, such as me and the type of business that I have established, are required to give our best advice no matter what it is. We're not giving that advice because we're trying to win a sales contest or because I have some other commission or incentive to steer you towards a certain product, right? So I always tell people, if you sort of do nothing else, ask the person who you're working with for financial advising, are you a fiduciary? If not, why not? And then I'll say, the other thing you should be looking for in your financial advisor is ask them about their fees and just be transparent about how you're going to make your money, sort of helping me, and make sure I understand what that is. Those are sort of two big things for the questions to ask up front for financial advising. What are the things that you recommend people ask up front when they're looking for a lawyer, when they need sort of business counsel? Like what should they be asking? First of all, do lawyers are all lawyers held to the fiduciary standard, or is that something that can be different in law too, the way it is in financial services?
We have what's called canons of ethics, and certainly within our ethical obligations, we are required to be competent and make ourselves competent in the advice that we are providing and acting in our clients' best interests.
Yeah, okay.
Being a zealous advocate for our clients.
Okay.
So
well, that's good. Yeah, again, many people don't realize financial people don't have to be. Good to know lawyers do. All right, so that one you sort of get just by showing up at the door. So what do you ask the people who you're interviewing to try to help you? What are the dimensions you should be evaluating?
Well, for small business owners, one concern and one factor is always going to be price. And so, like you with your clients, I always advise people to be very upfront about their pricing concerns, if what their budget is for certain matters, and and ask for that transparency about fees. A lot of clients get surprised by the fact that if they engage an attorney under the traditional billing by the hour approach, that they will be billed for responses to emails or to letters,
that meter
or
running
picking
thing,
up the
right?
phone.
You got to really understand what that.
Right.
Okay.
Copy charges sometimes. Right. So those are some hidden charges. I mean, it's not that attorneys intend for them to be hidden, but they tend to be unexpected from the client's perspective.
Or not understood up front.
Right.
That's going to be coming your way if you hire this firm.
So, and I've had clients say, I've got to ask you a question, but, are you going to charge me for this? And, you can have that, you should feel comfortable having that conversation. If you're afraid to talk to your attorney about their fees, then you're probably afraid to talk to them about lots of things. And that's not a good relationship. So that feeds into the second factor, which is, the rapport and the comfort. I mean, is this somebody that you feel comfortable talking to? Do you feel like they are talking down to you or talking over your head using a lot of legal jargon? If they are, do you feel comfortable saying, no, I don't understand that? And what is their response to that? Or do they seem put off by that or exasperated? Or do they say, all right, well, let me try to come at it from a different way? So, this is a relationship that you have with an attorney. It needs to be one that's very comfortable for you. You're paying for it in the first instance, and second of all, you want to make sure that it does what you want it to do in terms of providing you good guidance and advice, and that you feel comfortable with. So, rapport, accessibility. Are they going to respond quickly? Do you feel like you're begging for their time when you send an email or a phone call? Things like that. I suggest that people kind of vet when they're
So when they're working with you, they get you, right? Because you're one person show.
For now.
It's you, right? Yeah. So same thing. You work with me. You're working with me. You work with my firm. It's me. I know a lot of firms sort of have tiers of lawyers, right? And so you might sort of initially have some meeting with a pretty senior person who seems like this is the person I want to deal with, but a lot of the work gets done by sort of other lawyers. Is that important, or is that no? Anyone who's sort of working at any firm like that will be competent to work on whatever problem you have.
It really depends on the client and their comfort level with having a team or having a subordinate junior member of the team work on their matter. Certainly, again, if your firm is billing you by the hour, the junior guy is going to be less expensive, so you can get comfortable with that dynamic when dollars count. Others, they want the experience and the approach of the senior attorney, and they can be put off by having a junior member of the team kind of doing the nitty-gritty work and being the primary source of information. So, and if that's if that is an issue for you, I always tell people, talk to your attorneys about that. Setting your expectations, making them aware of your concerns is always better. And most attorneys would say that they want a long-term relationship with their clients, and so they want to hear these things too. Right. You're not going to offend anybody.
Okay. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. So we really talked about making sure you get the right kind of business structure set up, your C-Corp, your LLC, maybe your sole proprietor if that makes sense. Talked a lot about the contracts, right? Sort of making sure you do that upfront work so you don't get put in a tough spot. Any other big mistakes that you see small businesses make in the small amount of remaining time we have left today? Any other sort of final gotchas, like you really should make sure you're addressing this?
If you're entering into a new business venture with somebody else, my request, my plea is that you see somebody about having a good partner agreement or a buy-sell agreement, stockholders agreement, call it whatever you want, but setting up the expectations for what the partnership, the relationship is, and how people can leave that.
Right, people are going to need to get out of it, sometimes for expected ways, sometimes for unexpected ways. They should really make sure that that's covered.
Yeah, it's the prenup. It's the equivalent of a prenuptial agreement for marriage, but I strongly recommend it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. This has been great having you here today. Lots of great advice. We are financially fit, and we have a little bit of legal fitness now in our world, and so hopefully everyone will heed this advice. And we will see you next time on Financially Fit with Jason Haviland. Take care.
Saving and investing can be confusing and overwhelming. We're here to break through the noise, misinformation, and confusion with easy-to-understand concepts and tools that you can put into practice right away. Whether you're a novice investor or an old pro, join Jason as he explores different topics on investing and personal finance. From 401ks to better budgeting decisions, we'll cover it all. Our investment guidance will give you the comfort and security of knowing that you're on track to achieve your goals. It's time to rise above all of the distractions of daily life and take control of your financial future. Welcome to Financially Fit with your host, Jason Haviland.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.